If you're a public library, once a year you are asked to submit a report on various information in your library to the state librarian. There are several sections of this report that ask for information that is contained in your system. And in this video, we're going to show you how to get that information. We start with running reports. From the home menu, reports. And as you run reports, we start with the shared folders, templates, Balsam Central, and we're going to run a report on circulation, and one on collections, and one on our patrons. Go through them in order. From the circulation report section, we're going to run the circulation report on count the circulations by library and by date. From the collections group, we're going to run a report on all of our active items. However many things we've got in the library we're going to get. And from the patron section, we're going to run a report that gives us patron information with unique name and no address. So, with these three reports in hand, we're going to go through them one by one, and we're going to collect the information we need for the report. Now, what you're going to find is that the first report is going to be on registered users, section 7. And they only ask you two questions: the number of registered users, the total, and the number of registered non-resident users. So we take our patron report, here it is, and we're going to run a pivot table. And in our videos on working with spreadsheets, we learned how to do that. I'm using Excel now. So to do a pivot table, I do insert, pivot table. If I were in LibreOffice, I'd do data, pivot table, put in Excel, insert, pivot table. I want all of them. That's okay. And now I want a summary. First of all, I am looking for the groups. These are their permission groups. So I pull this down to rows. Now here are a list of all of the permission groups in my library. I want to get a count of each of them. So I take that same thing down and I pull it down to values. And voila, I now know that I've got 2,553 registered users in my library. Now, for question 7.2, I need to know the non-resident users. Pretty straightforward. So first I'm going to label the column. 7.2, oops, sorry, 7.2 non-resident. And I go down and I look, and I've only got two columns. I got 131 and I've got 10. So I'm going to total those two up, equals C10 plus C11, 141. So as I now have the answers for my state report. The number of total registered users, 2,553. The number of non-resident users is 141. So that's the information that I need for the users. Now let's take a look at circulation. For circulation, I need to answer these questions. Okay. How many circulation of children's did I have, and how many adult materials did I have? So I pulled the circulation report up, and let's work on that. This is every single thing that I've circulated for the last year, pardon me. Every single thing that I've circulated for the last year, and I'm going to run a pivot table on this report. So insert, pivot table, and what I care about now is by location, because all the information that I need is in location. So somewhere I've got a location. There it is. I'll scroll down. And now for all of my areas, these are everything that I've circulated. Now that I've got these, I know that I'm going to need to answer just two questions. Children's circulation and adult circulation. So let me label these columns. 6.1, children's, 6.2, adult. Oops, spell. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to identify which ones are here. I can type those numbers in, or a simpler way to do it is if I do equal, and then I go over and just press the enter key on that number. There it is. So I'm going to do this all the way through and identify every single one until I've got them all. Once I have them all filled in, I want to just total the columns. And again, the easiest way to do that is equals. I want the sum of, left paren, I want row C4 colon through C21. So I have 3,498 circulations for children, and if I do the same thing over here, equals sum D4 through D21, and I have 11,249 adult. So here are the answers to section 6.1 and 6.4. The last pieces of information that we can get relate to our collections. And this is section 5 of the report. And there are 5 questions that we need to answer. And we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to pull out the collections information. And we're going to run a pivot table. So in Excel, we insert a pivot table. And again, we're looking at locations. And here are all the locations. And we want to get a count. And we're going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're going to list our questions across the top. So 5.1 will be 5.1, and then we're just going to go through until we get them all in. And once we get them all in, and we've sorted them out by column, children's print, adult print, audiobooks, video books, and serials, then we're going to total each of the columns. In this case, it's equals sum, and I have C4 through C20. And I can copy those in Excel. I do a Control-C, drag them across, and there. Now, when I look at my questions, here are the number of children's print materials, 5.1, adult print materials. Here are the number of audio units. Here are the number of video units. Print serial subscriptions, we're going to have to do a little differently, but we'll come back to that. Notice that in this library, we have something called the info file. These are things that aren't really materials. They're bits and pieces of information that we just keep on file. We catalog them so we can look them up later, but we don't really want to report those as items. So we didn't fill anything in for these. So here are our counts of the 20,404 individual items we have. Now, we have to answer this 5th question. The periodicals, this is the total number, and the way this library has been cataloging is if they have a dozen issues of Life magazine, that counts for 12. I just want to know the number of periodicals, the number of subscriptions. So what I have to do is go another layer deep. Here, I know I've got a total of 275. What I do is I double click on the number for periodicals, and it opens up a completely new sheet, And you'll notice here were 5 issues of Yankee and 4 issues of Women's Day, and etc. Now what I can do is I can run a pivot table on this table. This is the third one we have. So I insert a pivot table. Oops, excuse me, let me open this up a little bit more so we can see it better. Insert a pivot table. And yeah, I want it on this table. And now I want to get this on title. And there are all of my subscriptions, serials, starting in the 4th row and all the way down to the 48th row. So I subtract the 3 above from 48. I now know that I have 45 subscriptions. I hope that makes sense. So here was my collection. I ran a pivot table. I answered each of these questions with the total number for each of these, and you know how these fit into your library. And I made sure I didn't count special things that might have been in there but I don't want to be reporting. And for my subscriptions, serials, periodicals, magazines, whatever, I double click this number to get yet another sheet, and then I ran a pivot table on that to get a count of each of the magazines. And now I have all of my numbers. So all of these are there. They're available for your use, and you should be able to run these reports. This is all written down on our website. If you go to For Our Libraries and you go to Reports, and here is the section on the state reports, and here's this video. So if I click, there it is printed. I can download it and copy it and go through it section by section. So that's doing the state report. Thank you for watching.